Hey guys, so I'm walking through the mall here, kind of coming up on my end of my time here in Rochester. I got a few more days and then I'm out. Had a really intense conversation with someone named Rad today. I'll put his name on the podcast. Really, really awesome. Really deep spiritual guy. He's a musician. I'm super excited for everything he's going to do. He really blew through the game. Like he just understood the rules, and we were able to get into level 4. So obviously, if anyone watching this, you're gonna be able to see what legendary is. But if you want to look, the fastest way to blow through a legendary playthrough, that's it. But yeah. So because he did that, you should know that if you're seeing Rad's save file, you can't use Rad's save file because anyone who gets the legendary basically has an unusable save file, right? Because yeah, you just can't use it. So he's one of the unusable ones. But if you listen to his, you'll learn to ask the right questions, and that'll take you into legendary really, really fast, whether you're prepared for it or not, right? But yeah, it's pretty intense. You got to listen to it. It's pretty cool. So anyway, that was interesting. Also, like, I watched Barbie today, and that was really, really cool, especially with this new perspective I have on everything. And I think it might be one of the first. So I've decided, like, there's a universal language that can be seen in movies and in books and things. And I think Barbie is one of the classic examples of that working. And I think that's one of the reasons it did so well, right? I think that's why it touched so many people and just had the level of success it did. So I'm going to be doing videos on that pretty soon. I don't know how, maybe within the month. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things I need to work out, but just I'm watching it and I just had a lot of ideas of what it could look like. So I'm super excited about that. And we're just working through it. But so recently, yeah, and that was it. It was just really cool. I think especially like identifying with Ken and Barbie, just really seeing like how those guys stand in kind of a juxtaposition together, but how they're both necessary, how it's really about both their journeys. And I thought it was interesting because I thought it talks about like the idea of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, but also like the immature. And I don't know if I want to use the word toxic, but the idea of like the immature, undeveloped feminine and the undeveloped masculine. And I learned a lot of really interesting things, right? So the two main takeaways I would say is that I learned that the divine masculine matures before the divine feminine, but the divine feminine is far more powerful, right? Like, so the divine feminine is way more powerful than the divine masculine, but the divine masculine leads the divine feminine because it gets to the end of its race faster and then is like invested in helping somebody else, right? So that was interesting. That was a big thing I learned. And I can explain why. Like, if you ask me, I can explain why. I'll be able to talk about it. So that's like one of the cool things. There's this girl I asked for help with perfume, and her people were looking at me just now. It's so interesting. Like, I've noticed today, like, people aren't like friendly at all. And I've talked a lot about this or whatever, but I'm noticing how much it's needed because even as I reach out, I think especially like in the younger generation or just a lot of people, most people's default mode response when any conversation is to try to end it as quickly as possible. Like, no level of genuine connection is really reached for. And I'm realizing, like, I actually had this service that I went through. I put in my email to have them. I won't name the service because it was this company. And the guy, you know, I put in the email and he calls me, and, you know, I'm a sales lead, so he's talking to me about it, kind of tell him what I'm doing. And I'm thinking these guys can kind of help me with my socializing and learning how to get better. And this guy just starts asking like these really, really trash questions, like just these questions like, oh, like, what are you trying to do? Like, just terrible questions. Like, I kept answering them and it was just the same question like 5 or 6 times. And I was like, you've asked me the same thing, so I just keep saying the same answer. So after a while, I was like, dude, like, I don't really have time for this. He's like, oh, well, I'll call back when you have time. It's like, no, it's not the time I don't have. It's that your questions are a waste of time because I'm just saying the same thing. So the bottom line is I need this. Like, how are you able to help me? And what was interesting is, like, you could tell he had this idea that if he took me through the sales process, he would get a sale. And I was at the point where it's like, dude, if you just tell me the price tag, I'll probably join. And he didn't know that. But because he wasn't listening, and what's crazy is that as I started asking, like just being like, tell me the bottom line, he like literally talked himself out of the sale. It was hilarious. Like, it was just like, dude, you're a terrible salesman. And you could literally, he was just like, no, this is how it's gonna be. And he started like talking at me and just being like, yo, this is how it's gonna be. This is the process. Like, if you don't like it. And I was like, okay, then goodbye. And I just hung up on him, right? And it was just crazy because it was like his whole process, his whole questioning, the whole point of it, it was like one of the most selfish, self-centered, like business, like I've done sales for a long time, right? So I sold solar, I knocked door to door. You know, I've sold my own business I've sold courses for my own business. Like, I've bought tens of thousands of dollars worth of digital products, physical products, you know, hundreds of thousands if you probably call it. So I spent a lot of money on courses and training and like all this stuff, spent tons of money. And his question process was one of the most obviously self-centered, like narcissistic, like you could just tell that business the only thing they care about is getting your money. And they have a service and they have something they do, but you can tell that they're doing that service not because they care about helping people with that, but because it's a way for them to make money. And it was just crazy because you could see it in the questioning, right? You could just see it in how they were asking the questions. And then I was literally at this point where it's like, dude, I'm going to give you a layup right now and I'm going to buy your service. And he wouldn't do it. It was like, all right, like if you won't let me pay you and give you money and you just want to control this and waste my time with these stupid, then he's like, well, I don't know if you're a quality for it. And I'm like, dude, you're not here to qualify me. You're not here to qualify me. Right? But the thing is, that whole like kind of like playing mind games, that's what these salespeople do, right? This is why people shut down conversations now. This is why our culture is so messed up, because there's these predators out there of people who are talking, you know, they don't have your best interests in mind. When I was talking with Rad, that was one of the things he was worried about, because he's like, people are hard to trust because I don't know if you have my best interests in mind. And it's sad, but after you talking with that salesperson, I was like, oh, this is why you think like that. Because there's salespeople out here who literally are just, they're trying to take your energy and control you. Where you literally can say, I will pay you, how much is it? And I'll just give you the money, let me do that. And they won't do it. Because it's not about, they want your money, but it's really like they just want to control you. They just want to bring you in, because it's not enough to do that. They want to bring you in, make you dependent on their product, so you'll keep going on it, because it's not about releasing you. It's not about teaching you. It's not about educating you. It's not about empowering you. It's about making you dependent on their product, so you're in their pipeline and they can continue to sell you thing after thing after thing and make you dependent on them, because you're food to them. You're their prey. And that's why so many people are so quick to shut down conversations and don't trust people anymore. Because like businesses like this, and I literally could tell from the third question, I was like, that is the same question, and it's really about poking and trying to find my vulnerabilities, not to help them, but so that you can use them and attack them and apply pressure and pain. And it was crazy because you could see that. And I remember learning that. They always tell you in sales, apply the pain point, apply the pain point. This is the idea. You don't need to put your finger into a wound to learn that the person is wounded. And if you're a good salesperson, you won't need to do that, right? You won't need to do that. You don't need to hurt anybody. You don't need to apply pressure on them. You don't need to make them feel any level of pain, that they're already feeling that pain. You want to help them feel relief. Because then when they're around you, they're going to be like, oh my God, that guy took the pain away. You lead with value. Lead with value. And that was something this guy was not doing at all. And I could literally tell. And when I pushed up against it and said, hey, you're not leading with value, I'm not wanting to do this, he literally started trying to intensify the pain, but he couldn't find any, because it's like, I'm whole. I'm like, dude, you're not going to find any pain here. Like, I believe in myself. So I'm really just like, you're not going to motivate me to buy from you with pain. But it's like, people from businesses like that, that's why people are scared, because that's the only way they know how to get what they want. They apply pain and pressure because they don't have the respectability, influence, or capacity. And frankly, they're not competent. So that's one of the biggest deals. Like, if you're a salesperson and you think the only way you can get ahead is by applying pain to your clientele, you do not understand or care about your clientele. The idea is you're trying to release people from pain. You're trying to help them. And you need to make it as affordable and accessible as possible. You need to try and help them. Right? Not put them and be like, oh, well, you can't afford you. Oh, I don't know if you qualify. What is loving or caring about that? I don't know if you qualify. It was nonsense. So I just hung up on this. I was like, dude, you couldn't help me anyway. I'm way beyond whatever the heck you guys are selling. I'm way beyond that. And it was just crap, just total crap. But then I realized when you come off like that and you're happy, people automatically assume you're like that and that you're trying to sell them. And that's why the world's so messed up. So I need to work on being more positive about this kind of stuff. I'm really working on trying not to be critical, but I'm just saying it's predatory business practices like that have hurt so many people. That's the issue. And like, I promise you guys, I will never ever do that, right? Like, I am here, like I'm totally here to make money, like my business, everything, like I'm trying to get the bag. But the idea is to help people because I want to be more loving. And I know that to help people, like that's the main thing. And you don't need much to do that just by showing up there. And that's what I'm trying to show everybody, right? And so I was just really sad. And after I bought some food there, and then there was this dad, and he had this beautiful daughter come up to him, and she was so happy to see him. And you could just feel the burdens of the world on this dude. And I tried complimenting him and doing that, but he was just so stuck in his head. And I just am like, that's what's like, I need to get rich. And I'm like, if I get rich, then people are gonna realize like money isn't going to solve the real issue. And then after that, everyone can start focusing on what matters. So yeah, I'm just gonna start focusing on getting rich for the next little bit so that I can help others help themselves. And so I've decided, I always knew I was gonna get rich and I've decided it, but I'm realizing for the next step, it's February 1st. I think for February, I'm going to set up a money printer because there's a lot of people I've been talking to who need money and they just keep talking about money, 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 money. And I'm realizing if you have money, and you can just slap it on a table, people will listen to you because they worship that. That's their God, and that's half the problem, right? It's like half the problem, you have so many issues, is that you worship money and you've given all your power to money. So yeah, I'm, because right now, I've got like 200 bucks, like access to, obviously like I have thousands of dollars coming, but it's still stuck in that account. But I got the tax issue taken care of, thank God. So that'll come through, and then like I can start moving the chains. But I already know how I can make this money, and like I've been putting it off because I've just been really enjoying my time like kind of alone and being in this more spiritual place. But now it's time to step out into the world and start getting that almighty dollar so people will listen and that I can help them. So here's getting it, right? So this is February 1st, and it's not the video that's planned for February 1st, but if you're starting to see these stagger, it's because the timeline's starting to fall behind, so really make sure you're paying attention. But yeah, it's February 1st, and I'm gonna get rich, so y'all don't have to. Peace.